Okay, okay, cool. बल्कि खड़ा रहा मुझे
Hi, everyone. Everyone can hear me. They can just maybe raise their hand.
Hi, sir.
Hello.
Okay. Hi.
Hi, we can hear you loud and clear.
Okay. Thank you. I'm just going to spotlight my video so that you can all see me. In a while, I will mute everyone so that we can listen properly. I'm going to wait for 5 more minutes till people join in. I am here with my colleague and team member Garima, and we will start in a while. Just give us another 2 more minutes. I'm just waiting for a few more people to join in, and then of course I'll go ahead. I have prepared a simple PPT so as to explain the concepts. It's mostly a conceptual webinar more than an experiential one. Usually when I do therapeutic webinars and workshops, there I do experiential ones, but this one is a more conceptual. And because we have limited time, therefore we may not be able to address questions or queries, but I request all of you to put down your question in the chat box and maybe write down your email, and my colleague and team member Garima will take note of the question and the email, and if it's a question that needs to be answered in a longer way, in an elaborate way, then we will of course write back to you. Alternatively, I will also share our email addresses so that you can of course write to us. So I'm taking a moment to mute everyone. Pardon me for that. Taking a moment to mute everyone. So pardon me for that. If you have something really, really important to ask, something so important that cannot wait till the end of the webinar, then of course you can unmute yourself and ask me. If you have any technical glitch, Garima will help you here. Perhaps Garima could also share her email address in the chat box and the number that she wants to share. Garima, if you are here, please do share your email address as well as your WhatsApp number so that if there is any technical glitch, they can reach out to you.
Sure, Gaurav, I'm doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, I think we are good to go. You can all have the liberty of having your teacups and water glasses alongside you, because sometimes in webinars like this, where we are mostly discussing about the energy aspect of things, we do begin to dehydrate and we do feel thirsty. Okay, so I'm going to let people in till 12:05, because what happens is when we do the webinar, then there is a flow. And if people keep popping up, then there is always some kind of distraction that might just come up. So I'll just wait till we let people in till 12:05, and then I will go on. Okay, and you will all have to pardon me because I'm trying to bring in and gather as much information in a simple manner. Now, given that I am not a business person or a person belonging to an organization, nor am I from a corporate field, I'm rather from a therapeutic field. And I am only trying to bring my therapeutic knowledge to organizations and to operations and business and how they find expressions there. Okay, so welcoming you all, officially welcoming you all on this webinar, and thank you all for joining me. It's quite an honor. So till now we have 32 people, and I'll just go ahead and perhaps share the screen so that we can move on to the PPT. Okay. So, one moment. We still have participants joining in. And that's the trouble, because people keep joining. And then at one moment we'll have to stop that from happening because, of course, it will disturb the flow of the session. So it's already 12:04. I'm going ahead with the session. Okay. So, okay. So Garima, I can see you. You are there. So I simply need to know from you, Garima, that does the PPT look fine? Does this look fine, or does it needs to be full body?
I think we should do it full body
Okay,
because
cool.
yeah.
Cool. The only problem with full body is that when people keep joining in, more and more people join, we don't see them joining. But I'm going to go full body still. Okay, great. Now it's full body, right?
I think
It's
no,
full
Gaurav,
body.
I can't see. Now it's full body. Yes,
Okay,
I can see that.
great. So welcoming all of you to this webinar, Business and Organizational Constellations, by Dr. Gaurav Deka, which is me. And I am the founder and director of Cognial Healers Academy. This is an academy wherein we deliver different courses and different diploma courses. We deliver courses in family constellation as well as in transpersonal and transformational regression therapy. Okay, so a little bit about myself. I'll just take 2 minutes to speak about myself. I started off as a medical doctor, and but now I am a transpersonal therapist, which means that I work in the field of consciousness, and I help people discover the root of their problem by going back in their past. Okay. Do we have an issue? Sorry.
It's still cracking, Gaurav.
It's still what? Sorry.
I can't. I think your voice was cracking in
Yeah,
between.
we'll take 2 minutes to. We'll just take two more minutes. Can you hear me now?
Yes, Gaurav, it's audible
Okay,
now.
okay. And I'm going to just take it full. Okay. So yeah, sorry for the interruptions. We will keep facing such interruptions, but we will have to do with it. Every time something of this sort happens, Garima, perhaps you can just raise your hand, or someone could just type in the chat box that sorry, your voice is breaking. And we will take.
News, please.
Sorry. Yeah, can you see me? Can you hear me?
Probably it's the bandwidth issue. If we switch off all our videos, then this issue will stop.
Yeah. So requesting everyone to switch off your videos so that we can just be here without.
Gaurav, we can't hear you. Your mic is on mute.
Okay, okay. Can you hear me now?
Nah, your voice is still cracking.
I don't know why this is happening because it doesn't happen. I am truly sorry for this. Is it still cracking?
Yes, Gaurav.
Gaurav,
Okay,
I have a suggestion. If you can switch off your video and just be on audio, that will help internet.
okay, okay, okay. One moment. Okay, fine. So I've switched off my video. Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Yeah.
it's better now. Yeah.
Okay, 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 okay. Cool. Thank you. Thank you, whoever has suggested that. Okay, great. So we go ahead. Once again, if there is any difficulty, if there is any glitch, please type in the chat box or just unmute yourself and speak. Okay. So I was just saying that I take people back in time to realize where the root of their issue is. Okay. I'm also a family constellation facilitator and trainer. I will come to that. And as I said that I started off as a medical doctor, and then I was TEDx speaker for 3 times. And I also have guest lectured in a couple of universities, including University of Heidelberg and Middlesex University, Mauritius. So going from there, let us straight away jump to what constellations are. So we all know that constellations are basically nothing but they are arrangements, they are patterns in time and space. I'm sure you all know that there are these patterns and arrangements of stars in the sky, okay? And their positions are important because without the position, we will not have the pattern established, okay? And therefore, their order is also important, the way they are placed, the hierarchy, the bigger star, the smaller star. And thirdly, of course, the function is also important, as in which star points in which direction, right? And therefore, they all represent a system, like the Great Bear or like the Orion. And they all keep moving from season to season as a system, as a collection of stars. That is truly what a constellation is. Now, one second. Now so how do we use the idea of constellation in any system? But before that, what exactly is a system? So a system is anything that has parts to it. Say, for example, the human body is a system. There is brain, the central nervous system. It is accompanied by, of course, the gastrointestinal system. There is, of course, a cardiovascular system, and all of them operate in tandem, parallel to each other, and they have their own functions, they have their own orders, and they have their own position and their own importance. Similarly, a house is a system. A house has a drawing room, it has a bedroom, it also has a kitchen, it also has a bathroom. Every single space has its own position, has its own function, has its own order. If, say, for example, one starts bathing in the bedroom, it will not work out, right? Because that's not it's made for. So if one starts cooking in the drawing room, again, it's not going to work out because that's not what it is made for. So position is important, function is important, and order is also important. So that is what we call as the systemic outlook. Whenever someone comes with an issue, comes with a problem, it could be any problem, any issue. Requesting all of you to mute yourself because, again, there's some sound disturbance. Yeah, as I was saying that it could be any issue, it could be any problem. We try to look at these issues and this problem systemically, meaning that if, say, for example, one star is placed in the sky, it will not work out because that's not its made for. So if one starts cooking in the drawing room, it will not work out because that's not what it is made for. So position is important, function is important, and order is also important. So that is what we call as the systemic outlook. Whenever someone comes with an issue, comes with a problem, it could be any problem, any issue. Requesting all of you to mute yourself because, again, there's some sound disturbance. Yeah, as I was saying that it could be any issue, it could be any problem. We try to look at these issues and this problem systemically, meaning that if, say, for example, someone comes with, I'm going in clinical terms, okay, a little bit. If someone comes with, say, depression, if someone comes with anxiety, or if someone comes with, say, a migraine, we will try to look at what is there in the system that is causing this issue. For example, say, all problems are seen by the systems as solutions. Any disease that comes up in the body is actually the body trying to find a solution to a given problem. An example can be, if you look at the animal line, if you look at wild animals, what are the kind of animals that that are able to fight, that are able to protect themselves, that are able to insulate themselves from bigger animals? It's those animals which are bigger in size, more massive, and has more mass, right? So which means that they need to be not only just aggressive, but also lay down their boundaries by being bigger in size. Okay, so now let's come to the point of view of weight in human world. We know that we have evolved from all of these animals. We have evolved from animal ancestry, and therefore the concept of being big, the concept of having weight, the concept of being able to protect yourself is also associated with body weight. So whenever someone gains body weight, my first question to them is, what situation are you trying to fight? What situation are you trying to insulate yourself from? Or what situation are you trying to protect yourself from? Or who are you trying to protect yourself from? So what I'm trying to say is that the body remembers the memory of what role, what positive role weight has played in their life, or in their line, looking at animal ancestry. And then the body projects that as a solution to the problem of perhaps someone is attacking them, of the problem of someone trying to go into the visceral part of them, or someone trying to sabotage them. And the body gains weight because, of course, the idea of fighting has changed, but the point is the body continues to operate the way it operated in the animal world. So what I'm trying to say is every problem is a solution that the system is trying to figure out. So the systemic outlook is we work with an intuitive approach. We have lesser strategy and more presence, as in when we work towards a problem, we do not try to bring planning, we don't try to bring order, we don't try to bring say scheduling or drawing a whole plan. We try to be more present. So while strategy is of course important to everyone, especially to people belonging to organizations and business, but again, intuition also allows us to be more present. Okay, and as I said, problems belong to the system. Problems are not separate from the systems. Problems always belong to the system. So say, for example, I give you the
Gaurav, can we stop for a moment?
Yes, stop.
Your voice is cracking again.
No problem.
Give it a pause, please.
Yeah.
Can we have a sound check once?
Can you hear me?
Yes, it's better now. I think we can continue.
Okay. Thank you, Garima. Yes. So I was saying that just like human disease is a solution that is being sought by the human body, similarly, problems in organizations are also the organization trying to find a solution. So Garima, here I want a little bit of your contribution in talking about what you speak about cultural disease, which is an analogous to what I spoke about disease in the human body.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
So just as the human system is made up of different parts and organs, as Gaurav just spoke about, every organization also has its own parts. So just like in any organization, there are major departments like finance, HR, marketing, operations. These are the four major departments, right? So any issues which are coming related to the functionality of these departments to work in harmony together can be considered as a functional disease or a cultural disease,
Okay.
which the disease, yeah.
Yeah. Go on, please. Yes.
Yeah. So,
Hello. Garima, are
can
you
you
there?
hear me, Gaurav?
Yeah. We
I'm there.
lost you
Yeah.
there actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you.
So,
So.
so I was saying that any organization, if considered as an or a single organism, just as any human or any animal goes through a particular dysfunction in their bodies, organizations also go through their own share of dysfunctions and diseases.
Right. Right. Okay. Great. Thank you, Garima. Thank you for that.
My pleasure.
Yeah. So we'll come back to you, and for now so the point is, if that is what the system is doing, that is what the human body is doing, and that is what families are doing.
Gaurav, can we give it another pause?
Yes. Yes.
Your voice is cracking again.
No worries. Can you hear me now?
It is slightly cracking again.
Okay. Okay. We'll give it a pause. I think there are just a lot of people, and maybe too many people.
Gaurav, one thing you can try is rather than running the slideshow, you can just keep the slides, run the slides in this manner only. That's one thing you can try.
Yeah, I'm trying that. Yes, thank you. Yeah. Sankalp, it's not possible to use another internet because I'm using a good Wi-Fi, and usually we do have these many participants. Maybe because it's daytime, that's why we have this issue. Usually my workshops are towards the evening.
Yeah, and I think your voice is back again, so we can continue.
Okay, okay,
Yeah.
okay. So we will continue the slide in this manner. Okay. Yeah. So now, how does the system does that? Now, from the constellation perspective, the kind of work that we do, we come from the school of thought, belief, and understanding that every system has a conscience of its own, meaning that just like a family has its own conscience, its own field, its own soul, similarly, any organization or any group has its own soul, own conscience, own field. To give you an example, if you look at our ancestors, if you look at different tribes, so when one member of the tribe would perhaps go out of the tribe and do something which is beyond the norms of the tribe, say for example, marrying someone from another tribe, right? And say this original tribe excludes this person. So how is this person going to feel? This person is going to feel, of course, number one, guilty, but number two, he will also be tied by the idea of love to his tribe. He would want to come back, but of course, now he has his allegiance towards someone else, right? So what happens later, it has been observed. Later, what happens is someone else from generations later in that tribe will begin to feel feelings of exclusion, will begin to feel as if they are not given proper importance. They are not given priority. Okay, some child, even if say the parents are very loving. So what this person is doing later in the generation is repeating, reenacting, replicating the pattern of exclusion that that man faced who was excluded from the tribe. Okay, so how is it happening and why is it happening? Now the tribe has a conscience of its own, it has a soul of its own, and this entire soul conscience, tribe conscience is trying to find balance in the system by bringing in an inclusion of whoever was excluded. So that is one of the principles and one of the orders, and I will get there. But what I'm trying to say is the group conscience is always bigger than the sum total of all the elements present in the group. Okay, so you have a personal conscience, right? Your personal conscience tells you what is right, what is wrong, what you should do to not feel guilty, and what you should do to belong to your own family or belong to your own office or to your own organization. That is your personal conscience. But at the same point of time, the entire group, the entire system, the entire organization also has a conscience of its own. And remarkably and magically, it comes to light when we actually place a constellation. I will go there and I will tell you what it is. But here, we just need to know that every group has this quality. Each group has a field of consciousness by which it operates itself. Okay, so from here, we move on to how this systemic approach came into being. So this person whose photograph you're seeing his name is Bert Hellinger, B-E-R-T, Bert, H-E-L-L-I-N-G-E-R. So Bert Hellinger, he recently passed away. He was the founder of this therapeutic approach called family constellations. And from family constellations, he moved into business constellations. Now, moving on to a little bit of family constellation and how that finds expression in business and organizations. Okay, so Bert Hellinger started off as someone who was working with the Catholic Church, and he was posted to work in Africa with the Zulu tribe, and he figured out something uncommon, something peculiar to the tribe, that when people from this tribe died, they did not go to the cremation ground, or they would not, put them aside. They would, in their own front courtyard, bury them. And then they would share stories with them, even if they are buried. And they would acknowledge them as dead, definitely as dead. But then they would also not treat them as living people, but they would form a sense of inclusion with these people. And sometimes they would eat with them, sometimes they would include them in their rituals. So he found this sense of inclusion of everyone in the Zulu tribe. And then he started observing different families, and slowly started finding out that individual problems that people face are somehow or the other connected to family. And the family has a soul of its own, a conscience of its own. And every person carries something or the other from his or her family, from his parents, from his mother and father, from his grandparents, from his siblings, not only his living siblings, but also siblings who have been aborted, siblings who have been miscarried, people from the previous generation. They bring these patterns with them. And he is not the only person who worked with family systems, but then there were people like Carl Jung, famous psychologist and psychiatrist who worked with Sigmund Freud. Even they used a system called psychodrama in order to address different concern among family members. So other people who use family system approach was Waslawick and Bateson, and one of the very famous family therapists was Virginia Satir. But it was Bert Hellinger who finally came up with the concept of what constellations are. And I know that you might be getting irritated, some of you who do not know what constellations are, but then I will slowly move on to how they function and how they work. Okay. So, okay, how constellations work. So basically, what we do in a constellation is, say, for example, you have come to me with an issue, okay? And your issue could be anything that, let's say that you have some anxiety issues. So what I would do is there would be a group of people sitting with me who do not know about your issue, neither do you know them. And they are perhaps here to participate in the constellation. And what I will do is I will place you there as my client, and I will let you observe what is happening in front of you by simply placing someone who will play you as a representative from the group and placing another person as, say, your anxiety. And then we will see an interaction happening between the person who is playing you and the person who is playing anxiety. Now, these two people do not know anything about you, do not know anything about the problem that you are facing. They are simply showing some kind of movement, some kind of expression, and slowly, slowly, we will perhaps bring more elements into the playing out into the constellation, and we will see what are the dynamics that emerge. And we may figure out that there is, say, someone who died in the family of, say, for example, a heart attack. And that person was never acknowledged, never given due importance, or never talked about. It was kept a family secret because perhaps there was something that people did not want to talk about. Maybe it was scary, whatever the reason may be. But the point is, now someone else, which is you, the client, is reenacting and repeating the trauma of what this other person went through. When I bring in a representative to play that person, which emerges in the constellation automatically, then what happens is this person is given his due role, his due position, his due importance, and said that you are included in our family. People may have forgotten you, but I want you to know that you are included. So what happens, it has a therapeutic effect on the client, because the client is able to understand that whatever I was experiencing belongs to a larger system and belongs to someone else. I can rest it here. I do not have to unconsciously carry this burden on behalf of my uncle or on behalf of my, say, grandfather, and I can rest it here. So, and I know that it's a process which is difficult to believe until you truly, truly experience it. And I will come to how that finds expression in organizations and business. But how that happens is there is a field of knowing, which we call as the knowing field. Now, you can look at this reference, morphic field or morphic resonance. And notable theorists of the morphic field or the morphic resonance is Albrecht Marr and Rupert Sheldrake. Now, they say that human memory is not limited to the brain or to the body. Memory extends to objects, memory extends to spaces, memory extends to everything that is available in entire consciousness. And therefore, systems also have memory across time and space. Organizations also have memory across time and space. Families also have memory across time and space. So when we bring elements to represent that field, represent that organization, represent that family member, automatically the knowing fields get activated. It's a complex and difficult subject to understand in its full entirety, but I would again suggest you to you can in fact go to my YouTube, and there is a whole full-length video on what knowing field is. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear.
Yes,
Okay.
Gaurav.
Okay. Thank you. Now, for some reason, the bar has gone away. Give me one moment. Yeah, I'm back. Please switch off your videos. Please switch off your videos. And mute yourself. Okay. Okay, so I was saying that there is a field, all-knowing field, and Rupert Sheldrake and Albrecht Marr has spoken that every organization, every system has this field present. Okay, and when we put elements to represent that field, it gets activated, and the hidden dynamics in the field show up. Okay, so going to now, what is the systemic perspective? We are talking about system, but what is the perspective that that we look at when we are referring to a system, we are referring to an organization? Firstly, there is a word called phenomenology. Phenomenology means whatever is happening, we allow it to happen and we simply observe. Okay, there is no interference. We are concentrated, we are focused, but we are also open. Whatever happens, we simply observe. So systemic perspective is we look at all parts of a system as the way they are. We try not to question those parts, that why that part is there. For example, I am an allopathic doctor, but in allopathy, we consider all departments as different. As, for example, we have cardiology, we have neurology, we have a department called, say, nephrology, which is for kidneys. We have lung disease department, right? So every department is segregated and separated. But then we also forget to look at the human being as a whole, because the human being is as a whole is also a system. And sometimes through other approaches, when we look at the whole, we understand that, okay, when I zoom out from looking at things from an individual perspective or from a part perspective, that is when what happens is I go back to looking at things phenomenologically. And when I look at things phenomenologically, then I can have a wholesome approach. So we zoom out from the part to the whole. So instead of looking at what is the problem that the sales department is facing, what is the problem that the marketing department is facing, or what's the problem that, say, the admin is facing, what we would do is, instead of trying to look at them and analyze in a constellation setup, I will tell, say, for example, on my screen, I can see, three names. I can see Nandita, I can see Garima, I can also see Pranay. So I might just say that, okay, fine. Nandita, you go and become the marketing department. Garima, you go and become the, say, HR department. And Pranay, you go and, say, become the finance department, right? And let's see what is the interaction that is happening in all three of them without giving them any information. But to the client, to whom the organization or the company belongs, will be able to see clear behavior and execution of how actually those departments function in their organization. And sometimes they are also dumbstruck that how is this happening? How are the people behaving the way the real people behave? So that happens because the knowing field gets activated. Okay, so, and from there what happens is solutions emerge automatically. We do not have to do not have to devise a solution. So again, we all come from rational perspective, diagnostic perspective. We come from a perspective of trying to find out the solution, right? So there is this word called brainstorming, which is there in every organization, in all colleges, schools, universities. Let's brainstorm. But here we stop that. We do not try to brainstorm. We observe phenomenologically, we put the elements in the constellation, and then something will emerge from there automatically. So we let the knowing field guide us to where the solution of the problem lie. Okay. Now, what are the different kinds of problems? By the way, systemic approach also means that, that different parts of a system also affect other parts. For example, whatever is happening in the US right now is, of course, affecting India. Or whatever is happening in the Middle East right now is, again, affecting another part of the world right now. So different parts of a system also at different levels, at a country level, at an organization level, at a family level, affect. When one member of the family falls into a problem like depression, or an issue like depression, of course, the mother is going to get affected, the father is going to get affected, right? And that effect has to be acknowledged, right? So we cannot disacknowledge things just because they do not belong to the individual. They are a part of the system, and we have to look at them systemically. Okay. So in organizations also, when one person or one department is facing an issue, or one part of the organization is facing an issue, it is affecting the whole organization, as well as the whole organization is responsible for acknowledging that issue, not just one thing. I can only speak from my experience of sitting in the emergency room, in the emergency ward, and whenever a problem will show up, someone going through, say, someone with a road traffic accident history will come, and the people sitting in the medicine department would simply say that, oh, this is not our work, please go to the surgery department, this is not our work. So immediately again the person is thrown away and excluded, and the person runs to the surgery department, and there he discovers that no, it's not the general surgery department, you have to go to the ENT department from here, it's not our job. Again he will go to the ENT department. So what is happening here is we are looking at parts, and parts doesn't help. It's only increasing the fear, anxiety, and phobia in the system. We have to look at it from a systemic approach, okay? And we will come to how we look at it from a systemic approach. So in companies, we see different repeating patterns. For example, say a company from where employees are continuously, after 2 months, they quit the job and they go away. And say, for example, what happens that there is a continuous war between two departments. So maybe one department is heavily dominated by women, and another department is heavily dominated by men, and there is continuous quarrel that happens. And we have to look at this repeating pattern from a constellation perspective, that okay, we acknowledge that this is something which is repeating. From a family perspective, I would say, what trauma is being reenacted by repeating the pattern in the family? If generation after generation, people keep complaining about heart attacks, I will look at where is the source of that trauma that is being repeated. Similarly, in a company or in an organization, if a pattern is being repeated, then I would try to place the pattern in a constellation and see where is the origin of that where the origin of that pattern is. At this moment, Garima, I want to ask you, do you want to contribute by saying anything here, by adding anything here, or am I in line?
I think you're good to go, Gaurav.
Okay, cool, great. Is there anyone who, in the briefest possible manner, in say 1 minute, can talk about a repeating pattern in their organization, company, or business? Anyone would like to volunteer or speak about it? In the briefest adequate manner, in a very brief manner. If no, then we move on.
Probably I can quote one example.
Yeah.
So in organizations, most of the time challenges like a high attrition rate in one department. Right? Why people are not able to, people come, they join and they leave. Right? So high attrition rate is one challenge that can be addressed through constellations.
Yeah.
It can be department specific, it can be role specific,
yeah,
or it can also be the organization wide phenomena.
Right. So hold on to that thought, Garima, because I will come back to that
Sure.
when I'm talking about the principles, the systemic principles. Okay. So, in that case, what I would do is I will place someone who is going to play the department in the constellation, and then I will place someone. Then I will place someone who will represent all the living people. Okay. And then I will see what dynamics emerge. But in doing that, in doing that, I will simply follow an approach of no judgment. For example, I will simply look at what is happening. Let's see the interaction between these two elements, instead of trying to push, trying to fix, trying to find the goal. And there we will observe that certain principles come to light. And these are called as systemic principles. So what are the leading principles? The leading principles are Again, in family constellations, we have around 6 such principles. Okay. But in business constellations, we again squeeze them into 3 important principles. The first principle is everyone has a right place and everyone is included. It will be easier to understand from a family perspective. The first thing is, say for example, when you ask a couple, how many children do you have? The couple will say, we have 2 children. First is a boy and the second is a girl. But will they ever talk about the 2 children who were perhaps miscarried before these 2 children were born? They will not say that, oh, we originally had 4 children, but then 2 died in miscarriage and 2 survived. And my boy is actually the 3rd child and my girl is actually the 4th child. That's not how they will speak, right? Because everyone, again, do not want to remember such things. It is subconscious, absolutely. And the point is we slowly forget because it's painful to remember, right? But at the same point of time, when that place is not given, these surviving children, what happens is they start feeling a sense of void, a sense of emptiness. They start missing something. And they don't know why they are doing that. It's the knowing field in the family. It's the family conscience, which is making them feel like that. Similarly here, everyone has a rightful place and everyone belongs. Say, for example, someone has worked in the company for a very long time, okay? And then say, 20 years later, that person is simply asked to leave without any reason. And of course, the person goes through an exclusion. And then it is said that let's not talk about this. So what happens subsequently, a year later, 2 years later, 3 years later, some of the employees in the organization start feeling feelings of exclusion, starts feeling some amount of, say, hatred or aggression towards the boss. So what is happening is all of these people are taking on the feelings of the excluded person. And then boss is wondering that, okay, why are these people behaving like that? So then when this person comes to me and I set up a constellation, we finally figure out that, oh, there was someone who was excluded and not given due acknowledgement. Okay. Similarly, there are incidences in companies or organizations which are forgotten or which are covered, like, for example, family secrets. So whenever we put a family secret aside, or we push a family secret, it will somehow show up in the system in the form of another trauma. For example, at a country level, again, this is not to quote any political movement, but the CAA and CAB issue that happened here in India is a clear reflection of the partition trauma finding repetition in whichever manner affecting whoever people. Garima, at this moment, do you want to speak about everyone has right place and everyone is included?
Yes, Gaurav. So I want to quote another example wherein a company's acquisition or a merger has happened, and the old founders or perhaps an old CEO has been replaced by a new representative. So unless that is recognized within the organization that this is from where the organization has come up and these are the foundations, so that void would reflect in the company's culture, because culture runs from top to the bottom.
Right.
So
Okay.
if something which is not recognized at the uppermost layer or the topmost layer, that void will eventually will run down in the cultural system of an organization as well.
Okay. And what about the point where we said that, sometimes we try to keep certain secrets away,
Yes,
certain incidents we forget, but then they show up
absolutely.
as pattern.
So another example could be, if an employee who was treated unfairly, it could be a case of abuse, it could any kind of abuse, a verbal abuse or a sexual abuse, or abuse of any sort.
Right.
And then upon retaliation, when the employee is fired,
Right.
and the case is suppressed on the suppressed or misrepresented
Hmm.
as a case of non-performance, or in whichever way it has been misrepresented, and the case is suppressed, that will also come into the company's culture, in the department's culture, which will reflect.
Show up as an effect somewhere in the subsequently in the company or in the organization.
Most definitely, yes.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you, thank you. So we move on to the next principle, order of give and take. Now, this is a very interesting one actually, because a lot of us feel that we are here to offer our product, our services, and the lowest price is what we'll sell, right? That's what we feel. But at the same point of time, there has to be an adequate balance that must happen between giving and taking. Say, for example, you are a freelance worker, and you are selling your product for say 1,000 rupees, and then what happens is you are not getting clients. So then, say for example, you come here and we figure out that subconsciously, energetically, the clients actually want to pay you more, because perhaps your service is of 3 hours, and you are undervaluing yourself, and you are not asking for what you should ask for in order to maintain the balance between give and take. And that's when you don't get people. So sometimes placing a lower price doesn't help, because the other party may unconsciously and may subconsciously want to give you more. And this finds reflection in families also, that parents supposedly give, children receive, children also give. But at the same point of time, children of course cannot give the way parents give. Or say for example, I um, I expect the kind of love from my wife that I get from my mother. That's not possible. That's truly not possible, because I can only expect the love of a wife from my wife. I will never be able to have the kind of love that my mother gives me. I can give back the love of being a son to my mother, and I can give back the love of being a husband to my wife. So there has to be an adequate balance between giving and taking. Garima, you want to contribute here a little bit about your
uh,
personal experience?
yes, Gaurav, I want to speak about it on the organizational level,
Absolutely.
wherein often, so one example that you have quoted is, if you are working as an independent consultant,
Mm,
or a business person. So quoting the right amount is always a challenge that comes up, that I also personally faced at the when I started out on my own.
mm,
Then in on the organizational purpose, if you talk about it, so we often see that from the HR perspective, whenever the burnout rate is high, the
mm.
employee is getting burnt out. Why? Because the amount of work is more as compared to
Mhm.
the pay that is being received.
Right,
So it leads to a lot of dissatisfaction in employees also,
right, right,
because there
right.
is an imbalance of give and take. The amount of uh, salary the employee is getting, but
Mm,
the quality of work is much higher, or the value addition is much higher than the compensation being received.
mm.
So this creates the imbalance, and
Yeah.
I think Constellation again can address this issue.
So in such a constellation, I will actually place the perhaps the product, and one element can play the product, and the other element probably can be the company self-worth. Or one element can be all these employees who are burnt out, and on the other hand, I might place the organizational self-worth. I might do one of those, give according to the situation, and see what are the dynamics that emerge from the interaction between the two elements.
Right.
The third order is again, it's actually the order. So in families we say that hierarchy is set in time. So whoever comes first takes in priority first. So it is a known fact that grandfather came first, then father came, and then I came. So it's a known fact. Okay. So in companies also, there is order in the basis of seniority. Then there is, one sec. Again, I don't know why this has gone. One second. Okay, anyway. Garima, can you hear me?
Yes, Gaurav.
Okay, great. So there is order of position. Of course, we know that there is a boss. Then there is order of seniority, people who have been there for a very long time. Order of age, that also is important. Order of function, there are different departments, which say, for example, the department that brings in the money is first place. The department then creating the result is placed second. Then the supporting departments who support in processing and bringing the money are placed next. So there is always order even in organizations, and many times what happens, this order is jeopardized. So Garima, again going back to you, for example of the
Yes.
order.
Yes. So, Gaurav, just when you quoted that, the money making departments and the support departments,
Yeah.
just like corporate functions or, HR and marketing and all that.
Yeah.
So, this also creates an imbalance in terms of the salaries that are given out, or in case, when layouts are happening. So these are the departments which are targeted the first,
Right.
which of course creates an imbalance in the organization, because all departments have their own importance and have their own function.
Right.
Also on the employee level, when we talk about it, so that it has been observed that sometimes when leaders do not act like a leader but like a boss, and they just come and order the subordinates and get rid of the the task that has been there.
Hmm. Hmm.
So it can lead to burdening of the team members, and
Absolutely.
they might feel overburdened that we are not getting enough support. And it
Right.
could happen the other way also, wherein the team members can really team up against the new manager who has come in, or probably the entire team doesn't like the manager for personal
Right.
reasons or whatever reasons, and
Right.
they team up against the manager to make him look like unfunctional. So they start
Exactly.
skipping levels and the non-adherence starts happening, and it becomes chaotic on the organizational level.
It is also seen in the family front in the form of a concept called parentification. For example, say uh, when parents burden their children with their responsibilities, or whatever is happening between the spouses, or whatever conflict is happening between them, then the child feels overburdened. And then what happens, the child has to now take the burden of this responsibility of not only knowing these facts between their parents, but also supporting the parent, which is not the child's job, because the child's job is, of course, to be a child. To a certain extent, of course, the child understands responsibility, all of that is fine. But if it interferes if that kind of heavy responsibility interferes with the development of the child, then it will lead to parentification, and the child has to now bear all the burden. Similarly here, when the real person, the say, for example, the CEO is not there, and managers start gaining that position, and say, for example, they start behaving with their employees in a manner where they are simply burdening them and not taking responsibility, then what may happen is, again, there might be unnecessary burden that might happen. Another example that we can give here is, for example, you say, for example, you are a coach and you belong to A organization, and A organization sends you to B organization to take care of its employee. Okay. And you go to B organization, and then what happens, the boss of the B organization calls you and asks you that how is that so and so employee doing. Now, technically, you are not supposed to talk about it because it is supposed to be confidential. But again, you feel that you also have to talk about it because the employee is perhaps not going through a good time and needs support from his organization or her organization. So you speak and don't speak, you divulge and you don't divulge, and then you are caught between the engagement of the organization to whom you belong and the organization for whom you work. So between two organizations' dynamics, you are caught, just like a child is caught between its two parents and their conflict or their engagements. So in business constellation, we call it triangulation. In family constellations, we call it parentification. Okay, so these were the three orders. Now, moving on to steps in a constellation. What do we do in a business constellation? So in a family constellation, we don't take much information, but because we simply want to set up the different roles, we either do it with real people, sometimes we do it with puppets also, and to show it, probably we'll take another webinar because in this one we can't show it. It's a lot to actually show. So first of all, we just interview, and in the interview, we primarily focus on facts, like what is the structure of this organization, what is the history, legalities, who owns what share. So factual information, no perceptions. Oh, they are not performing well, they are not doing this. These are perception. I want facts. Similarly, in a family also, I don't like my mother, I don't like my father. These are perceptions. I want facts. Who came first? Grandfather came first, father came next, which brother was first, where is the order established, how many sister mother has. These are facts, right? And they cannot be altered. Similarly, in an organization also, how many departments do you have, what is the structure, who was the founder, how did the founder leave. These are facts. So then after factual interview, we choose representatives, and then we simply place them. Say, for example, we choose a representative for a potential client, then we choose a representative for a product, then for, say, a marketing channel, and then say one representative could be the company itself, and then we are observing how they're interacting. Now, all the people who are playing their own roles somehow feel that they are missing something. They begin to slowly sit down and they begin to slowly hang their head. And then to each individual, when I ask, how are you feeling? How are you feeling? As a facilitator, when I ask, each of them tells me, I feel we are missing something. I feel we are missing something. And then I suddenly come back to my client who is observing from far away. And I ask him or her that, do you feel something is missing out here? Because all the different representatives feel as if there is someone who is being missed. And then I say, okay, let's place the missed element and see. So I also don't know, client also don't know what is the missed element, but we simply bring another person from the group and we place that element. And then that element starts saying or starts feeling that I belong here, I was forgotten. And all other people also feel that, okay, now that this element is here, we feel so much better. We feel we are at our place. And that person comes and takes under his shadow. He literally opens his arms and all the different elements come under his arms. And then I go back to my client. I run back to my client and ask, what does it mean to you? And then suddenly there is a pop-up realization that, oh, the founder of this company was forgotten. We for some reason, we did not remember him or her, and suddenly when we bring the founder in the constellation through the knowing field, automatically there is relief, there is calmness, and people feel as if they belong in their right places. So we choose representatives, we place them, we explore the dynamics, and then we bring up these interventions. And maybe the founder says that I am here, and then everyone says that yes, you belong here. You are also included. You may have been forgotten, but then now you belong, and we look at you with pride. We look at you with honor, with respect. And automatically what happens is this movement that happens within a constellation not only brings a shift within the client's say, consciousness, but also this movement finds translation in the organization in itself. For example, when I do a constellation for an individual going through a clinical problem, automatically the shift is not only seen in the individual, but the family also shifts. Something happens within the family also. And all of this is energetic. It happens automatically, and you have to experience it in order to believe in it. Okay? So that's how we bring harmony in the field. What do I do as a facilitator? I simply observe an empty center. I don't focus on goals. There is no fixing. I simply connect with the field, and I simply hold space, and I keep observing phenomenologically without getting into one, say, perspective or in one way. And I simply use my intuition, and I remain with my client and keep observing whatever happens without questioning or without judgment. So now at this juncture, I am moving on. We are exceeding time a little bit because of course we had some technical glitches. So I'm moving on to a testimonial by one of our close friends, Hetvi Seth. And Hetvi, I hand over the mic to you. Hetvi is someone who has experienced organizational as well as family constellations. And she herself is a very successful business person. Hetvi, please.
Thanks, Gaurav, for the introduction. And thanks, Garima, for taking us here all the way. And hello, everyone. I'm Hetvi, and I'm a qualified chartered accountant and an entrepreneur. And I've participated in various workshops for family constellations. And in my career, I have been a part of several structurings for organizations, internal controls, establishing several processes and standard operating procedures as well. What I have normally observed is that we as leaders, co-founders, consultants, we work with different systems to ensure it's a smooth functioning. Many a times, as the businesses are changing dynamically because of the external factors which are most affecting, for example, the markets or the business and political scenarios, the economic scenarios, or sometimes even natural disasters, we have to constantly keep on restructuring our internal processes and business structures. And sometimes we even have to undergo a complete re-engineering process. So as a management, when we are involved in designing the systems and processes with the help of several consultants, we inherently, out of basic respect and as a basic loyalty and ethics, we stick to the basic vision, mission, and values of the organization. We often question that what is the DNA of an organization, and around these basic principles, we tend to establish our system. Also, the system could be perfect from an angle of the new system that we establish. That could be perfect from an angle of a legal, financial, or even an operating structure. But often we see that the effectiveness of the leaders and the systems decline over a period of time. There are repeated behavioral patterns which come up. Often the key performance indicators for measuring the efficiency and productivity are not very much operational. It's why is this? Because it's mainly observed is because we often fail to delve into the deeper aspects of the subconscious unknowns. It could possibly be that the system is designed in the form of a fear of losing a certain set of people or certain revenues, which is very important. Or sometimes, or even for with the fear of losing some important people. And this is exactly where the constellations in business will help to identify the subconscious missing element and identify the root cause of the subconscious pattern which is flowing in the system. And this could possibly be one of the reasons as to the emergence of a new company culture. Many a times when we are doing mergers and acquisitions, we often look at what is the company culture, how are the people behaving, are the value systems of the existing company and the new company which is being taken over matching or not. And this is an indirect outcome of the system which is there, and the unconscious field and the unconscious elements which are there. So this is where the constellations can probably help identify and understand the imbalance and rectify the systematic behaviors. So Gaurav, this is my take on how business constellations can practically help the managers and even the managers and the co-founders and the people in the management position. Gaurav, this is my take.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Hetvi, for this. So an important point is, yes, sometimes we may not be looking for solution. It might not be a therapeutic session for an organization or for a business, but it might just be a session in order to gain perspective, some perspective that you did not have before, that now you have after observing the constellation, and you know that, oh, this is how it looks like. I had not even thought about this. And we continuously see that the three principles, the three leading principles keep finding operation in every constellation that we do, for any system, be it for countries, be it for governments, be it for systems, be it for organizations, or be it for businesses. So thank you so much, Hetvi, and we move on to the end of this webinar. So this is my website, www.drgauravdeka.com. You can go and visit my website to know more about the kind of work I do in the clinical field. And of course, I would appreciate your questions. You can email your questions to cognialhealersacademy@gmail.com. And you can also use my number to WhatsApp me if you have any elaborate question, if you have something to ask me, or if you want to know more about how to move ahead with business constellation. If you have a personal query, then of course you can use my number 95991543305. You can also find some of my videos on YouTube by my name. It's just Gaurav Deka. And I've shown certain demonstrations of also constellation on YouTube, and you can of course find me on Facebook. Yes, I will be sharing the recording of this talk, and I will be uploading it on YouTube so that people can go back, listen more, and probably if someone wants to, take notes or something, then they can of course do that. And of course, if you want to schedule your own business constellation, if you are the owner, the founder, if you are an employer, employee, someone working in the finance department, marketing department, so you can get in touch with Garima, my dear colleague and teammate, and you can, if the email address is given there, and of course her phone number is there, 93157 She will help you schedule a session with us, wherein you can get perspective, solution, and therapeutic understanding as to why certain things are happening the way they are happening. Okay, so thank you so much for participating in this workshop, and I request all of you to now simply switch on your videos maybe, so that I can take say a wonderful picture of all of you. I'm also going to switch on my video, start video, and put everyone. Thank you so much. And then we all smile. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot. Another one, because there are a lot of people here. Smile, please. Thanks a lot. Thank you so much. I'm truly grateful to you all for coming and honoring and allowing me to speak, someone who doesn't have a business background or a corporate background, but I could deliver as much as I could. But yes, it is interesting to see how these things show up in a constellation when we set it up. And I look forward to hearing from all of you. Thank you so much. Okay. Oh, there is a question here by Sandeep. Does trauma which is passed on in an organization ever affect the bottom line? Yes, it does affect the bottom line. There will be some effect. Well, the permutations and combinations are so varied and so huge in number that we cannot pinpoint that how it is. But when the problem comes up and when we place it in a constellation and slowly we keep moving back and back, we are able to spot it that, oh, this is where it happened. So
Thanks.
yeah.
Gaurav, I had a quick question, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So how much of a founder or like the organization head for small businesses, like their own feelings percolate down to the employees, even though the employees might not feel any, like they might have their own position, everything is fine, but still how much of one's own stress or whatever may percolate down?
There are two things here. One is your belief systems which will unconsciously and subconsciously will anyways percolate down to your entire system that you come up with, have come from, of course, your family, your ancestors, right? And you have learned it from them, consciously, unconsciously, whichever way, and they will find percolation. That's number one. And if something is not working, hence we constellate and we see, okay, what is not working? That's number one. And number two is, what is the intent you are putting? When you founded this organization, company, system, what was your original intent? It's like when you enter a relationship and you put an intention, are you entering this relationship out of fear? Do you want to get married because, family is pressurizing you? Your intent is important, because whatever intent you put, it will show up. So if you're putting any intent in founding this company or organization, it will show up in the organization in some manner, in some form.
Okay, okay. Thank you so much. That makes so much sense.
Yeah. Okay, so thank you so much. Thanks a lot. Garima, perhaps you can go ahead and share your number in the chat box before we go offline, so that people can take in your number once again and your email ID. Yeah, thank you. If you have personal questions, long questions, questions which are profound, questions which need elaborate explanation, or you want to give us a history of your organization or your company, you can, of course, email or text Garima. So here is her email address: contact garimavarma@gmail.com, and her number is 93157996766. Thank you so much. Thank you. I'll see you then. Bye-bye.